Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, but this is still not yet finished over. We're continue. Yes. Now, what we'd like to do, what we haven't done, unfortunately, earlier, we would like to play the address of the President of Poland, Andrzej Duda. With a little mistake, we've played you the video that didn't have the English subtitles, which we'd like to right now to our English-speaking audience play that video one more time, just so everyone can read the subtitles and understand better what the President Duda has to say. Thank you.
Razem w Waszyngtonie. Gorąco Państwa pozdrawiam i dziękuję Telewizji Republika za to przedsięwzięcie promujące Polskę w Stanach Zjednoczonych. To cenny wkład w relacje polsko-amerykańskie, które mają olbrzymie znaczenie strategiczne i znakomite perspektywy na przyszłość. Inauguracja drugiej kadencji prezydenta Donalda Trumpa to wydarzenie, którym żyje nie tylko cała Ameryka, ale którym żyje świat. To również ważny moment dla Polski. Nasz kraj łączą ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi więzi szczególnej przyjaźni i współpracy. Ich fundamentem są wspólne wartości, wolność i demokracja. Jestem przekonany, że prezydent Trump, jego administracja i przedstawiciele głównych środowisk politycznych Ameryki są zdeterminowani, aby służyć tym wartościom jak najlepiej. Z początkiem bieżącego roku Polska objęła przewodnictwo w Radzie Unii Europejskiej. Program polskiej prezydencji opiera się na 3 zaproponowanych przeze mnie punktach, ale pierwszym z nich jest zacieśnienie współpracy transatlantyckiej, szczególnie w obszarze bezpieczeństwa oraz wielkich szans związanych z rozwojem gospodarczym. To dziedziny najistotniejsze, zwłaszcza teraz, gdy państwa wolnego świata stają przed nowymi wyzwaniami, a dotychczasowy ład międzynarodowy podlega głębokiej przebudowie. My w Polsce wiemy, że nie ma bezpieczeństwa i rozwoju w Europie bez współpracy ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi. Dlatego będziemy dbać o rozwój tej współpracy, bo jest on dobry dla obu stron. Jestem w tej sprawie konsekwentny. Od początku mojej prezydentury zabiegam o strategiczne relacje naszego kraju ze Stanami Zjednoczonymi. Są one dzisiaj lepsze niż kiedykolwiek. I wierzę, że wraz z drugą kadencją prezydenta Donalda Trumpa będą stawać się jeszcze mocniejsze. Dziękuję Państwu za obecność dzisiaj w Waszyngtonie, dziękuję za transmisję, dziękuję za wszystkie dyskusje. Jeszcze raz serdecznie pozdrawiam. Wszystkiego dobrego.
Thank you very much for listening to the wonderful address that President Duda prepared for our conference. Now I would like to invite up to the stage Madam Anna Wellisz with her keynote address. Please join me here. Anna Wellisz, Edmund, Burke Foundation. Please.
This will be short and sweet, I promise. I'll make it the closing remarks. I won't be cruel. I know we've been here a long time, so thank you for your patience, and thank you to all the intrepid ones who are still here. And actually, much of what I was thinking about was already said by the previous panel. So quickly, my name is Anna Wellisz. I'm the president of the Edmund Burke Foundation. Those of you who are familiar with national conservatism and with NatCon conferences, we're the ones who put them on. And for those of you who worry about NatCon, please don't. We're extremely happy to see you here, to see TV Republika in the United States, in the capital of the country during the inauguration. And just to sort of make it as simple as possible, the main thing we're for is the world of independent nation states. That is why we're glad that a president who believes that the interest of his nation comes first, we think Poland's interest should come first in Poland, and that the world of independent nations in general is probably the safest structure that our so-called planet can possibly have. And also, let's drop the planet. Let's just stay with nations. Most of us do not watch the plays from outer space. Most of us do not do time or space travel. It is a completely artificial construct and a really, really strange way of looking at life, including life down here. So I was originally going to talk about energy because this is what we agreed, so this is a bit of a change. But it is a very important thing to connect with the national structure of the world as the safest place. Maybe first, the role of Poland. And while we were congratulating ourselves that Poland is in a good place, it's not in a great place right now. What's in a good place is the public opinion and the general instinctive thinking of the Polish people. Nevertheless, the last elections did happen. That means that more than 50% managed somehow to believe that voting against national interest, and I mean facially against national interest, was in fact a patriotic and good idea. What I would like to propose is maybe let's think about why it was that for 8 years Poland suffered such incredibly aggressive assault, both from the EU and for the past 4 years from the United States. And it actually has a lot to do with the previous panel. The first thing was Poland's energy policy and the belief in national energy sovereignty. That had a very specific manifestations. Unlike Hungary, Poland has access to the sea. Because it has access to the sea, it can do things that other countries do not have to approve of if they don't object to the opprobrium that comes with it. So the first thing is the Baltic pipeline from Scandinavia into Poland. That means at any given point, Poles were able to go into Scandinavia and grab the fuel that was necessary, have it shipped to Poland. LNG terminal that was mentioned was another thing. Again, American, not Russian, American liquid gas, 3 long-term, 20-year agreements, and a place to store it. The first such technological infrastructure on the Baltic Sea. Lithuania has one, but that's a ship. It's a slightly different mobile thing. Poland has on the ground, on coast facilities. The next thing is modular pipelines that made it possible to connect Poland with Baltic states. That means that if Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia are under threat, Poland is in a position, reciprocal position, to ship and to receive fuel in case of Russian blackmail, for example. The second thing was migration. I'm not going to belabor it because it was covered very nicely. But basically believing in the borders, and therefore the nation is what's inside. And those who are inside get to decide what it's going to look like, who is going to live there or who is not going to live there, and certainly reserve the right to invite visitors. You know, it's very much like in our home. We actually kind of take exception if somebody comes in without being asked. It's not very different with nations. It's very similar. You get to decide who visits you and on what terms. They do or do not get visa. You decide how long they stay. There is nothing weird, nothing reactionary about it. It is quite normal. It is your home. You get to tell your guests whether they're welcome or not, and you decide whether or not the door opens to let them in. The next thing is security. Poland is naturally pro-American. Western Europe is not. Western Europe is comfortable with pro-Russian policies, and Western Europe seems to have a case of envy of the United States. So when Poland wants to be a partner of the United States, Western Europe clearly is prepared and wants to compete, also compete for business in China, and certainly compete by not buying American energy, but instead opting for Russian energy. That has an additional advantage of getting cheap, albeit dirty energy, and at the same time having environmentalists not really mind, because out of sight is out of mind. They do not think about the fact that their blue hair is possible only because various petroleum-derived products make it possible to have it. And the last thing is culture. Poles are very proud of being part of Europe, part of the Mediterranean culture. And it's pretty recent that they're allowed to express it, so they're still very attached to it. Now, what's important about the last elections is that very clearly the electoral campaign was waged against Poland for about 8 years on behalf of the group that's currently in power, which means that it is completely reasonable to expect a payback. Usually, those who are elected pay to those who are doing the campaign for them. Because the Brussels-Berlin axis is, well, I don't know. I mean, good luck to those who want to draw the line in interest. I'm with Professor Legutko on this. This is conducting imperial policy by other means, which means we can call it the European Union as long as France agrees to serve as a fig leaf and allows the whole enterprise to be called European. But at a certain point, it becomes very clear that European Union is pursuing German national interest. It is not Poland's national interest, because Poland's national interest is independence and a very strong position of East Central Europe, which is also, it happens also, to be in America's national interest, which makes Poland a really good partner in Europe for the United States. The entire East Central Europe, again, is interested in partnership with the United States rather than competition with the United States. I think the memory of who caused our part of Europe to be free is still too new, too fresh to forget. And I also would like to, speaking of energy, there was a book suggested, there is another one, and it's Michael Schellenberger, a converted liberal, who wrote a book called Apocalypse Never. It's a good book for kids to read, and it really is exactly what the title says. There is no impending apocalypse. Children should not be afraid to have children or families. He also has a lot of insight into the environmental movement, of which he was a part since he was a teenager. Really good for strategies, really good for common sense. I highly recommend it. Now, there is one last thing that I wanted to say, because I promise I'll make it short. It is really great to see TV Republika in here. It is really important to take part in the conversation that's happening across the Atlantic from Poland. This is where policies are made. The only reason why we can be as optimistic as we are is not because America is stubborn, and it is not because President Trump means what he says. It's because he's speaking on behalf of a tremendously powerful country, a very powerful nation with resources, with means, with incredibly powerful economy. And that is why, even if he's profoundly disliked in Europe, they cannot afford to just shrug him off. Poland, assuming its natural role as a leader in East Central Europe, is critical not just to Poland, but also to the United States, again, because that is a naturally pro-American part of the continent. It is not going to be part of the continent from which, as is the case with Germany, funding is going to be handed over to the tune of 9 billion euro to Russia and their project to neuter NATO and neuter Europe by making it dependent on Russian fossil fuels. At the same time, notice that the system functioning in Europe, the same person who was running Gazprom, who is on the board of Rosneft, former Chancellor Schroeder, also happened to have been on the board, I don't know if many of you know that, but on the board of Ringier Axel Springer, the biggest media owner in East Central Europe. So imagine, why was it that Nord Stream 2 managed to be under the radar of very incurious journalists across the West for all these years? Why is it that it took President Trump and an almost completed project for this story to explode? This is something to think about, and controlling the media, especially in the region, is definitely the way to go. So it was well done they came close, and they failed. At the same time, another thing to remember, anybody who thinks that the war in Ukraine is anything else other than a war caused by horrendous energy policy would be, I mean, I'm willing to debate that person. That is all it is, which is also why, after Angela Merkel made an effort for almost 30 years to keep East Central Europe from developing energy that was independent of Russia, that means so-called družba was operational as the only source of energy for those countries that right now are in a very difficult position because they cannot just say no to the Russians. Those who complain in Poland about Hungary, those who complain about Slovakia, please keep in mind, this is lights out for them. If they had energy sources other than Russia, if the European Union had allowed the region to develop itself, to embrace its own independence, if loans for nuclear had been available, if they were willing to do what Poland did by going rogue for 8 years, by the way, thanks almost entirely to Piotr Naimski and his vision of energy. Every time he was in the government, he took it a little further. It took almost 30 years to build the things he put online. Yes, he had a supportive government, but my God, what's incredible strength of character. So keep it in mind. Again, don't let the European Union to divide the Poles and the Hungarians. We stand together, we fall apart. Do remember, no politician in his right mind, and I don't mean one who wants power, I mean one who cares, who gives a damn about his constituents. No politician in his right mind will do things that will put his people in the cold and in the dark. It is not possible. He needs to have other options. As far as I know, Hungary is working on it. They're developing their nuclear, again, over EU's dead body, not because it was made possible. And working not with their first choice, because they're using Russian technology as far as I know, but keep that in mind. That is a decision, a political decision that's costing East Central Europe a lot, and developing of smart energy policy, energy independence, is going to be the only guarantor of Poland's independence. Going back to talking with the United States about the 3 Cs initiatives, talking about transportation infrastructure investments, about energy investments, is the only way for our region to go. We must be independent, the whole region, not just Poland, of Russian oil and of Russian gas, even though that market clearly was deliberately created by our German neighbor, who got rid of its own nuclear and made sure that East Central Europe doesn't have any to fall back on. So anyway, again, come to NatCon. We're going to have a conference in Europe, and we're going to, in September, we're going to have one in the United States. We're very happy to have people from other nations come and join us, and nothing scary. We discovered that the cooperation between patriots from different countries is really quite amazing. We tend to like each other. We tend to work together. We're all different. We have different problems. We have one thing in common. We want everybody, the hell, to leave us alone and let us solve them and not impose lack of solutions on us. Thank you very much. Good luck to all.
Thank you very much, Anna Wellisz, for your wonderful keynote and very inspiring keynote. What we would like to now do is to close our conference, maybe on a little lighter note, with our good friend Terry, who's been on the stage already, this time with his closing remarks.
I'm self-aware. I understand it's getting late, so I'll try to go through this quickly. My name's Terry Yormark from Chicago, Illinois, and I'm a proud third-generation Polish-American. My cell phone number is 630-247. No, I'm kidding. For those of you that are here for Dominic Turczynski, don't call me. But you can find me on Facebook, Terry Yormark. In America, we have a saying that you guys, we save the best for last. so I don't know what I'm doing up here. Obviously, there's some translation issue with that as well. Speaking of Polish, unfortunately, I don't speak Polish. I apologize for that. You see, growing up, my grandmother told me that I could get by with just 3 Polish sayings, and I'll just be good for the rest of my life. That was daj mi buzi, ja cię kocham, and daj mi pieniądze. And she said with those 3 sayings, I could pretty much get through anything, and I want to thank my grandmother up in heaven because those 3 sayings delivered my beautiful Polish wife. So thank you, grandmother. And God bless my grandmother because she could have never foreseen any of this. I'm honored and very humbled to close out this conference. On a personal note, I've worked with Michał and I've worked with Adrian. Adrian, thank you so much for everything that you've done and all the hard work that you've put into this conference. You really deserve a round of applause, especially putting it together on such short notice, so thank you. Michał, we met at the Republican National Convention. We hit it off right away. And there's something in life where if you just think about it, it can become true. And I've dreamed about moments like this to speak to the country of Poland, and here we are. So follow your dreams and manifest what you want to do with your personal lives because it can come true. And Michał saw enough in my writing that he let me become a columnist for Gazeta Polska. I've written 2 columns for it, and I hope that's a relationship that we continue moving forward. Also, just one more thing. I wanted to thank everybody for being here because I think for the first time in 10 years, I finally impressed my Polish mother-in-law. It took 10 years to do it. Mamusha, you're watching on TV. How do you like me now? So let's get to it. Again, I had the privilege of attending the Republican National Convention, and there was many speeches that week, and they were all wonderful. We all know, the Hulk Hogan speech that was just phenomenal. No, I'm not going to tear off my shirt or anything like that. But Eric Trump's was the one that stood out to me. And Eric did an amazing job because what he did is he laid out piece by piece all the things that went wrong the last 4 years. But the really amazing part of his speech was actually when he went through and he apologized to the American people for all the things that went wrong. And I thought that was really powerful. And so in honor of Eric Trump, as a Polish American, but as an American speaking to a Polish audience, it's important for me, I want to give a nod to him and apologize to my Polish friends. I apologize to my Polish friends for the last 4 years that we've drifted away from peace through strength, opening the door for chaos to ensue throughout the world. With President Trump, have no fear, we got our swagger back. To my Polish friends, oftentimes here in America, trends start in California and move east. I'm sorry that the toxic waste ideology spread across the Atlantic Ocean like a California wildfire, poisoned much of Europe. Like President Trump says, everything woke goes to, well, the kids are watching, I don't want to say it. Finally, to my Polish friends, I'm sorry that we took God out of almost everything in our lives when God, everything should begin and end with him. But here's the good news, my friends. When President Donald J. Trump rose his right hand yesterday, we got our country back. We got it back. But here's the thing. We almost didn't. I ask you for just a moment to sit back and reflect. If it weren't for divine intervention from the hand of God himself, yesterday would have never happened at all. On July 13th in the field in Butler, Pennsylvania, all of this whole week was almost taken away from us. It was on that day the hand of God ever so gently touched President Trump's face, moved it a little bit to the right, 1/16 of an inch, and saved his life so the entire world could be blessed for what we witnessed here yesterday. Well, God, in that chart, that beautiful chart, oh God, I love that chart. Watching these events on that day unfold on TV with tears in my eyes, I was unable to speak barely. I turned to my wife, and with crystal clear clarity, I said to her, honey, he just won the damn election. Truthfully, it was much more colorful than that, but kids are listening. You see, in that moment, in a moment of life and death, the person that the media painted as one of the most selfish people in the world did the most selfless act the world has ever seen. Instead of protecting his own life, he defiantly stood up against the orders of the Secret Service and chanted, fight, fight, fight. instantly turning the entire crowd's tears into tears of joy, fears into tears. It was in that moment the world saw the president cares about us, not himself like the media told us. It was in that moment, 8 years of that media narrative that he was selfish, it was shattered. It was in that moment he broke the media and a legend was born. It was in that moment he did win the damn election. When President Trump rose his right hand yesterday, the America we got back is an America that places our family values first. It's an America that openly acknowledges and encourages our children. We have a better chance of success being raised in a loving, caring household by two actively involved parents. The America we got back is where law enforcement isn't seen as an aggressive adversary, but as fellow neighbors who represent the very best of us, selflessly placing our lives on the line to protect theirs. The America we got back, where families could visit the biggest and best of our cities without any fear of their safety. It's an America where our mothers and grandmothers are continually looking over their shoulders, clenching their purses, leaving their favorite jewelry at home. The America we got back is where we could have political disagreements and still be friends. It's an America where our political beliefs don't define who we are, dictate where we work, who we associate with, or a certain group that we belong to. The America we got back just yesterday is where business owners can be given credit for the outsized risks that they take, much like you guys here in TV Republika, and should be applauded for pursuing independent financial independence. It's an America where they should be encouraged instead of being told, you didn't build that, by America's CEO. The America we got back, whose generosity pours in abundance for those, but listen, it doesn't recognize, it puts a stop to the free handouts that those have to become entitled, expecting only to take without offering anything in return. The America we got back, there are no participation trophies. It's an America where winners are rewarded and losers learn valuable life lessons and build the fuel to come back better, faster, stronger, and smarter next time. Only then are true victories truly appreciated. Let's make trophies great again. America we got back is an America where we lead from the front and achieve it through peace through strength. It's an America where armed forces superiority is so widely recognized that we are never challenged, winning conflicts without even firing a single shot. The America we got back is where elected officials look over taxpayer money as if it's their own households. It's an America where we stop borrowing money from foreign nations to spend money we don't have on things that we don't need. Guys, a little accountability goes a real long way. The America we got back is an America where if you break a law, darn it, there's consequences. It's an America where criminals are actually tried for their crimes, accountable for their actions. Novel idea, huh? No chase laws, book and release, no bond policies backed by liberal cities and activist judges. They're cancers eating away at our once safe communities. The America we got back is where red tape and bureaucratic BS is replaced with good old-fashioned common sense. How many times during this conference have we heard the word common sense? There's a return to it now. When we find a better way to recognize something has become too complicated than it needs to be, it's addressed and it's fixed on the darn spot. The world's become too darn competitive, too complicated. Unless we change our ways, we won't be around tomorrow. The America we got back is one that tells the truth. It's an America that stands up and recognizes that we can't continue to live in a society where lying has become normalized. Integrity must return in everything that we do. And finally, the America we got back is an America where our nation's best can run for elected offices without fearing for the lives of their families and themselves. It's an America we are rid of political violence and disagreements are handled peacefully at the voting booth. So in closing, my Polish friends and millions of people watching on TV, I leave you with this final message, and I ask the people in Poland for this humble ask from this very prideful Polish American. On November 5th, our quiet majority vowed to be quiet no longer. On November 5th, we rallied our brothers, we rallied our sisters, our friends, our neighbors, and we went to the voting booths in numbers too big to rig. On November 5th, we did our job. Now it's your turn. On November 5th, we voted out our Donald, so you could vote yours out. Thank you.
Oh yes. Thank you very much, Terry. Isn't he great? Another round of applause for him. Not an easy job to deliver a closing remarks after such a powerful, inspiring, and yet very much packed day of wonderful panelists and speakers. We would like to thank all of them. We would like to thank, obviously, Michał, Tomasz, Jarek, the management on TV Republika Poland, TV Republika USA, all the crew that came all the way from Poland to Washington, D.C. to do it, to produce it, to be with you here, and obviously to our wonderful team, to Maggie and her team for organizing all of this wonderful conference. A lot of work involved. But first and foremost, to our wonderful audience, particularly those who survived through the entire program. You're going to get your medals, a special TV Republika recognition that we have to figure out what could that be. Thank you so much. As we conclude the very first Polish-American inauguration, I just wanted to leave you with a little bit of a preview of what's going to happen, because we conclude, but we are just starting. So please stay tuned for other programs and events that we will be having here in America, all across the United States, with many different places, on many different subjects and in many different contexts. We will be present here, so stay tuned. I think Michael wants to say something else. He wants to have the final word. So
I just want to say one more thing. Tomasz is not here, but we have made this decision and we wanted to announce it, as Tomek is probably on air right now on Telewizja Republika. This is just the first of the conferences that we are going to organize in Washington each year. And I just wanted to say this. We will announce it officially, but just for you to know, you are all invited to all the conferences that we're going to organize on the same dates to commemorate the great day that we were witnessing yesterday, both here in this room, and I'm looking at Maciek right now, and the room that is behind us, because something really profound happened here yesterday and today. Thank you very much, and let's meet again next year. Thank you, and thank you, Adrian, and all the applause to Adrian, who organized it and who was behind the idea of doing this kind of, I don't know, you call it public policy? What's the name in the diplomat's words for that? Thank you very much, and thank you, Adrian. Congratulations. See you again soon.